Why Buck's sacrifice for Eddie? On Thursday, March 6, 911 will return to ABC, marking the end of the show's mid-season break. Sob Stories, the 9th episode of Season 8, begins when Eddie says he's returning to Texas to be with Christopher. Despite his best efforts to be encouraging, Buck finds it difficult to accept his best friend's departure and even ruins his open house. Although there is still some friction between them, they reconcile after Buck gives up his apartment and works as Eddie's subletter. When Abigail Spencer's, timeless, suits, new detective character attacks Maddie, it's the most shocking turn of the hour. Although there is reason for concern given the dangerous circumstances, Minear asserts that Maddie will take any necessary action to ensure her survival. The showrunner hinted that things might not go as planned in Season 8, Episode 10, which will decide her fate. Now let's talk about Maddie. She urged someone to end their own life to save the life of an innocent person. Did Ji-Yun take that action as a result of being threatened? Minear, well, that's a fascinating query. Although I hadn't given it any thought, I believe it must have. What is something that I haven't seen her do, was my question while we were breaking the story. Her ability to perform miracles over the phone in the call center is something I've witnessed numerous times, and I found it fascinating that she might persuade someone to do the most sinister thing in order to save their life. However, I do believe it's a really wise comment that he brings up Ji-Yun. Yes, I would say. I was ecstatic when you introduced Abigail Spencer. For this serial killer posing as a detective, did you already have her in mind? Minear, she is incredible. No, I mean, we were sort of assembling this two-parters concept. That true crime story about the weepy-voiced killer who would phone 911, which was based on a genuine incident, always captivated us. It's really eerie, and you can hear it online. Then he added, I'm not going to get into heaven. It was really eerie. So we had always been interested in that. Then we kind of developed the notion of the Brayburn character as we were trying to think of who's the most interesting person to meet on the other end of this phone. My casting director, Sean Dawson, then says, Abigail might be available for this. Regarding part 2, could you tell us more about Maddie's abduction? Does she believe she should have anticipated this betrayal? Minear, Maddie doesn't have time to be critical of herself at that point, in my opinion. Because of the morally dubious deed she had to perform at the end of the last episode, I believe she was punishing herself. However, Maddie has a long history of survival and has previously been a hostage. She must then take the necessary actions to ensure her survival, which she ideally will. Minear, Eddie is conversing with strangers who have inquired about the residence. What is the matter with this location? What makes you want to go? Furthermore, he says, because I have to. I believe Eddie is telling the truth when he states that his obligations are in Texas. When Eddie leaves, Buck reacts differently than the other members of the 118. What does that juxtaposition intend to convey? Minear, that's Buck. In many respects, he is a puppy dog. And he begins the episode by wishing to avoid being self-centered about it. I'll assist you in renting out your home. Together, we're going to accomplish it. He's attempting to act morally, but he struggles with abandonment, and when this man returns to be with his child, he will lose a significant portion of his life. That I believe that when he hears this, he nearly uses it as justification to throw a small fit. You'll also notice, I believe, that the other 118ers don't hesitate when they learn in the middle of the episode that Eddie feels compelled to leave to go take care of his child. They embrace him after telling him it's the proper thing to do. Those folks are all parents. Buck doesn't. Regarding the investigation of Buck's emotions, discussed in Oliver Stark's Today interview, is there anything you may hint at? Minear, when Buck moves back to Texas, he struggles to let go of both himself and his best friend. I will simply let the episodes do the talking. I simply don't want to give the impression that we're heading in a direction that isn't true. What did Buck's decision to sublease his home and Eddie's encounter with the 118 mean? You'd really do that for me? He asked, almost incredulously. Minear, Eddie says something that, in my opinion, perfectly captures what's actually happening, and I believe that Eddie is irritated with Buck at the time. That is, if in order for it to be bearable that I'm leaving, you need to be mad at me, then be mad at me. Because, after all, that's what humans do. It's just like, I'm going to decide to be mad at you so that I don't hurt as much once you're gone. Eddie understands that, but he's irritated at the time. Later, when he notices that Buck has somewhat stopped acting out and is acting extraordinarily generously by resolving Eddie's current issue, which is that, I can't really go until this house